ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaskar, my dear friends. This is 20th video on the teachings of Maharshi Ramana in his own words. I start video number 20 with the talk number 337. Mr. K.R.V. Iyer puts a question: how is the mind to be purified? Maharshi replies: the Shastras say by karma, bhakti and so on. My attendant asked the same question once before. He was told, by karma dedicated to God. It is not enough that one thinks of God while doing the karma, but one must continually and unceasingly think of Him, then alone will be the mind become pure. The attendant applies it to himself and says, it is not enough that I serve Sri Bhagavan physically, but I must unceasingly remember him. To another person who asked the same question, Bhagavan said, quest of the self, meaning I am the body, idea must vanish. Atma Vichara equals to disappearance of Dehatma Buddhi. Talk number 338. Mrs. Jennings, an American lady, asked a few questions. Devotee. Means same Mrs. Jennings. Is not affirmation of God more effective than the quest, who am I? Affirmation is positive, whereas the other is negation. Moreover, it indicates separateness. Maharshi, so long as you seek to know how to realize, this advice is given to find yourself. Your seeking the method denotes your separateness. Devotee, is it not better to say I am the Supreme Being than ask who am I? Mercy, who affirms? There must be one to do it. Find that one. Devotee, is not meditation better than investigation? Maharshi, meditation implies mental imagery, whereas investigation is for the reality. The former is objective, whereas the latter is subjective. Devotee, there must be a scientific approach to this subject. Maharshi, to eschew unreality and seek the reality is scientific. Devotee, I mean there must be a gradual elimination, first of the mind, then of the intellect, then of the ego. Massive, the self alone is real, all others are unreal. The mind and intellect do not remain apart from you. The Bible says, be still and know that I am God. Stillness is also requisite for the realization of the self as God. Devotee, will the West ever understand this teaching? Maharshi, there is no question of time and space. Understanding depends on ripeness of mind. What does it matter if one lives in the East or in the West? Sri Bhagwan referred the lady to a few stanzas in Truth Revealed and to Payumanovar she retired. Later, Sri Bhagwan said the whole Vedanta is contained in the two biblical statements, I am that I am, and be still and know that I am God. Mr. K.S.N. Iyer, a railway officer, said to Sri Bhagwan that the compiler of cosmic consciousness considers realization to be possible only within certain limits of age in an individual's life. Maharshi, does anyone say I must come into being before or after some age? He is here and now. Statements like this are misleading because people come to believe that they cannot realize the self in this incarnation and must needs take chances in another. It is all absurd. Talk number 339. With regard to Shiva Vishishtha Advaita, that is Shiva Siddhanta, Sri Bhagavan said, Garudaoham Bhavana, I am Garuda conception does not make a Garuda of a man. All the same, the poisonous effects of snake bite are cured. Similarly, with Shivoham Bhavana, I am Shiva conception also. One is not transformed into Shiva, but the ruinous effects of the ego are put an end to. Or the person remains his individuality but remains pure. That is fit for constituting a part of the body of Shiva. Becoming so he can enjoy the supreme bliss. That is liberation, say the Shiva Siddhantis. This simply betrays the love of their individuality and is in no way the true experience of liberation. Talk 340. Mr. Bose began. After the return of body consciousness, Maharshi, what is body consciousness? Tell us that first. Who are you apart from consciousness? Body is found because there is body consciousness which arises from I consciousness, which again rises from consciousness. So consciousness leads to I consciousness, leads to body consciousness, and it leads to body. There is always consciousness and nothing but that. What are you now considering to be body consciousness is due to superimposition. If there is only one consciousness and nothing but it, the meaning of the scripture Atmanustu Kamaya Sarvam Priyam Bhavati. All are dear because of the love of the self becomes clear. A question arises why there should be suicides in that case. Why does one do it? Because he is unhappy and desires to put an end to his unhappiness. He actually does it by ending the association with the body which represents all unhappiness. For there must be a killer to kill the body. He is the survivor after suicide. That is the self. Talk number 341. Mrs. Jennings. Sri Bhagavan says that the state of realization is freedom from the tyranny of thoughts. Have not we thoughts got a place in the scheme of things, maybe on a lower plane? Mercy, the thoughts arise from the I thought, which in its turn arises from the self. Therefore, the self manifests I and other thoughts. What does it matter if there are thoughts or no thoughts? Devotee, are good thoughts helpful for realization? Are they not authentic via media? A, a lower rung of the ladder to realization, Maharshi? Yes, this way. They keep off bad thoughts. They must themselves disappear before the state of realization. Devotee, but are not creative thoughts an aspect of realization and therefore helpful? Mercy, helpful only in the way said before. They must all disappear in the self. Thoughts, good or bad, take you farther and not nearer, because the self is more intimate than thoughts. Yourself, whereas the thoughts are alien to the self. Devotee, so the self finally absorbs its own creation, which had helped its realization. Whereas civilization wrongly worships and so separates and short circuits its own creations, which had helped its advance. Mercy, are you not distinct from thoughts? Do you not exist without them? But can the thoughts exist without you? Devotee, is civilization generally, slowly but surely advancing in the right direction towards the self-realization? Mercy. Civilization is in the order of things. It will finally resolve itself as all others in the realization of the self. Devotee, is a fine type of primitive man nearer to realization than a civilized man governed by intellect and thought? Mercy. A realized man may look a savage, but a savage is not a realized man. Devotee. Is it right to think that all that happens to us are God's ordainment and therefore only good? Mercy. Of course it is. Yet all others and God are not apart from the self. How can thoughts of them are arise when you remain as the self? Devotee, is surrender accepting all physical annoyances such as ants, mosquitoes, snakes, etc., and in accepting, willing, or ceasing to be really hurt by them? Mercy, whatever it is it apart from you, the seer or the thinker? A Parsi lady from the audience intervened. If they are not apart, do we not feel the sting of the ants? Mercy, whom does the ant sting? It is the body. You are not the body. So long as you identify yourself with the body, you see the ants, plants, etc. If you remain as the self, there are not others apart from the self. During the body feels the pain of the sting. Mercy, if the body feels it, let it ask. Let the body take care of itself. How does it matter to you? The American lady again. Does complete surrender mean that all noise and disturbance in our environment, even during meditation, must be accepted? Or should we seek a cave in a mountain for solitude? Did not Bhagwan do this? Maharshi, there is no going or returning. The self is said to be unaffected by the elements, infinite, eternal. It cannot move. There is no place to move in for the self. But in the process of finding the self, is this seeking external help spiritually legitimate? Maharshi, the error lies in the identification of the self with the body. If Bhagwan is the body, you may ask that body, but understand him whom you address as Bhagwan. He is not the body, he is the self. Then she referred to an article in Horizon where it is said that everything is God and nothing belongs to the individual and so on. Mercy, everything the individual, God and all are only the self. Then she read some lines from Shelley and asked if Shelley was not a realized soul. Within a cavern of man's trackless spirit is throned an image so intensely fair that the adventurous thoughts then wander near it. Worship and as they kneel, tremble and fear. The splendor of its presence and the light penetrates their dreamlike frame till they become charged with the strength of flame. Mercy, yes, the lines are excellent. He must have realized what he wrote. The lady then thanked Sri Bhagwan and retired. Talk number 342. At 11 p.m. in the night, a group of Andhras came from Guntur consisting of a middle-aged woman with a sad but firm look, her mother and two men. They requested audience with Sri Bhagwan. The woman said to Sri Bhagwan, when my son was in the womb, my husband died. The son was born posthumous. He grew up all right for 5 years. Then he was attacked by infantile paralysis. When 9, he was bedridden. Nevertheless, he was bright and cheerful. For 2 years he was in that condition, and now they say that he is dead. I know that he is only sleeping and will awake soon. When they said that he had collapsed, I was shocked. I saw in a vision a sadhu who appeared to pass his hands over the child's body, and the child awoke refreshed. I believe that sadhu is yourself. Please come and touch the body so that he may get up, she prayed. Sri Bhagwan asked what the doctor said. She replied, they say that he is dead, but what do they know? I have brought the boy all the way from Guntur to this place. Someone asked how. Is the corpse brought here? See, they said that the corpse would be taken by paying special rates at 1 by 2 rupees per mile. We have paid rupees 150 for it and brought it as luggage. Maharshi, if your vision be correct, the boy will wake up tomorrow. See, please touch him. May I bring him into the compound? The others protested and persuaded them to leave. They left, and the next morning the corpse was reported to have been cremated. When asked, Sri Bhagwan said, it is said of some saints that they revive the body. It is said of some saints that they revived the dead. They too did not revive all the dead. If that could be done, there will be no world, no death, no cemetery, etc. One man asked, the mother's faith was very remarkable. How could she have had such a hopeful vision and still be disappointed? Can it be a superimposition attendant on her child's love? Mercy, she and her child not being real, how can the vision alone be a superimposition? Devotee, then how is it to be explained? No answer. Talk number 343. Devotee, even as the hand is cut off, one must remain unaware of it because Bhagavad Gita declares that the self is different from the body. Mercy, does jnana consist in being unaware of the pain of injury? Devotee, should he not remain unaware of pain? Mercy, measure. I again start from talk number 343 as there was some interference. Devotee. Even as the hand is cut off, one must remain unaware of it because Bhagavad Gita declares that the self is different from the body. Mercy, does jnana consist in being unaware of the pain of injury? Devotee, should he not remain unaware of pain? Mercy, major operations are performed under anesthetics, keeping the patient unaware of the pain. Does the patient gain jnana too? At the same time, insensibility to pain cannot be jnana. Devotee, should not a jnani, a sage, be insensible to pain? Maharshi, physical pain only follows body consciousness. It cannot be in the absence of body consciousness. Mind being unaware of the body cannot be aware of its pain or pleasure. Read the story of Indra and Ahilya in Yoga Vasishtha. Their death itself is said to be an act of mind. Pains are dependent on the ego. They cannot be without the I, but I cannot remain without them. Devotee 340, talk number 344. Devotee, Vichara Sangra relates four obstacles to self Vichar Sagra relates four obstacles to self-realization. Mercy. Why only four? Some say they are nine. Sleep is one of them. What is sleep? It is only the obverse of waking. It cannot be independent of waking. Sleep is unalloyed self. Do not think you are awake. Sleep cannot be nor the three states either. Only forgetting the self you say you dreamed. Can anything exist in the absence of the self? Why do you leave it out and hold the non self? As the mind tends to go out, turn it inwards, then and there it goes out owing to the habit of looking for happiness outside oneself, but the knowledge that the external objects are not the cause of happiness will keep it in check. This is vairagya or dispassion. Only after perfect vairagya the mind becomes steady. The mind is only a mixture of knowledge and ignorance or of sleep and waking. It functions in five ways. Akshipta, active, mudha, dull, vikshipta, distracted, kashaya, latent, ekagraya, one-pointed. Of these, akshaya is only the latency of tendency and not the tendencies themselves such as attachment, repulsion, etc. Yourself being Ananda, why should you enjoy it saying, ah, how blissful this is, rasa swada. During the marriage ceremonies, if virgin feels happy as bride without experiencing the embrace of man, this is rasa swada. Duty, Jivan Mukti, liberated while alive itself being Ananda. Sri Bhagwan interrupted it. Do not look for Shastras. What is Jivan Mukti? What is Ananda? Liberation itself is in doubt. What are all these words? Can they be independent of the self? Devotee. Only we have no experience of all this. Mercy, what is not, is always lost. What is ever present here and now. This is the eternal order of things. Example, necklace round the neck. Talk number 345. Sri Bhagwan continued after interval, destroy the power of mind by seeking it. When the mind is examined, its activity ceases automatically. Looking for the source of mind is another method. The source may be said to be God or self or consciousness. Concentrating on one thought, all other thoughts disappear. Finally, that thought also disappears. It is necessary to be aware of while controlling thoughts. Otherwise, it will lead to sleep. Devotee, how to seek the mind? Mercy. Breath control may do as an aid but can never lead to the goal itself. While doing it mechanically, take care to be alert in mind and remember the I thought and seek its source. Then you will find that where breath sinks, there the I thought arises. They sink and rise together. The I thought also will sink along with breath. Simultaneously, another luminous and infinite I will manifest and it will be continuous and unbroken. That is the goal. It goes by different names: God, Self, Kundalini Shakti, Consciousness, etc. etc. When the attempt is made, it will be itself take you to the goal. Talk 346. Free will and destiny last as long as the body lasts. But wisdom transcends both, for the self is beyond knowledge and ignorance. Talk number 347. The mind is a bundle of thoughts. The thoughts arise because there is the thinker. The thinker is the ego. The ego, its thought, will automatically vanish. The ego and the mind are the same. The ego is the root thought from which all other thoughts arise. Talk 348. Devotee. There are times when persons and things take on a vague, almost transparent form, as in a dream. One ceases to observe them as from outside, but it is passively conscious of their existence. While not actively conscious of any kind of selfhood, there is a deep quietness in the mind. Is it at such times ready to dive into the self, or is this condition unhealthy? The result of said hypnotism, should it be encouraged as a means of getting temporary peace? Mercy. There is consciousness along with the quietness in the mind. This is exactly the state to be aimed at. The fact that the question has been framed on this point without realizing that it is the self shows that the state is not steady but casual. The word diving is appropriate to the state of outgoing tendencies when the mind is to be diverted and turned within so as to dive below the surface of externalities. But when deep quietness prevails without obstructing the consciousness, where is the need to dive? If the state be not realized as the self, the effort to do so may be called diving. The state may in that way be said to be suitable for realization or diving. Thus, the last two questions in the paragraph are unnecessary. Devotee, the mind continues to feel partial towards children, possibly because of the form sometimes used to personify the ideal. How can this preference be outgrown? Maharshi, hold the self, why think of children and reactions towards them? Devotee, this third visit to Tiruvannamalai seems to have intensified the sense of egoism in me and made meditation less easy. Is this an important passing phase or a sign that I should avoid such places hereafter? Mercy, it is imaginary. This place or another is within you. Such imaginations must end so that the places have nothing to do with the activities of the mind. Even your surroundings are not of your own accord, they are there as a matter of course. You must rise above them and not get yourself involved. Talk number 349. Sri Shankara's Path to Salvation Through Discrimination. A note by Sri Maharshi. In the current issue of the Vision is published the following note, being the translation by Mr. S. Krishna, M.A. of Sri Ramana Maharshi's preface to his translation of Sri Shankara's Viveka Chudamani or Crown Gem of Discrimination. Every being in the world yearns to be always happy, free from the taint of sorrow, and desire to get rid of bodily ailments which are not of his true nature. Further, everyone cherishes the greatest love for himself, and this love is not possible in the absence of happiness. Indeed, sleep, though devoid of everything, one has the experience of being happy. Yet, due to the ignorance of the real nature of one's own being, which is happiness itself, people flounder in the vast ocean of material existence, forsaking the right path that leads to happiness and act under the mistaken belief that the way to be happy consists of obtaining the pleasure of this and the other world. a safe guide. But alas, that happiness which has not the taint of sorrow is not realized. It is precisely for the purpose of pointing out the straight path to the happiness that God Shiva, look on the guise of Sri Shankaracharya, wrote the commentaries on the Trivon Institutes Prasthanatraya of the Vedanta, which extol the excellence of the bliss and demonstrated it by his own example in life. These commentaries, however, are of little use to those ardent seekers who are intent upon realizing the bliss of absolution but have not the scholarship for studying them. It is for such as these that Sri Shankara revealed the essence of the commentaries in this short treatise, the crown gem of discrimination, explaining in detail the points that have to be grasped by those who seek absolution and thereby directing them to the true and straight path. Learning what to do, learning what to do. Sri Shankara opens the theme by observing that it is hard indeed to attain human birth, and one should, having attained it, strive for the realization of the bliss of liberation, which is verily the nature of one's being. By jnana or knowledge alone is this bliss realized, and jnana is achieved only through vichara or steady inquiry. In order to know this method of inquiry, says Sri Shankara, one should seek the favor of Guru and proceeds to describe the qualities of the Guru and his Shishya and how the latter should approach and serve his master. He further emphasizes that in order to realize the bliss of liberation, one's own individual effort is an essential factor. Mere book learning never yields this bliss which can be realized only through inquiry or vichara, which consists of sarvana or devoted attention to the precepts of the Guru, manana or deep contemplation, and nidhi dhyasana or the cultivation of steady poise in the self. The three paths, the three bodies, physical, subtle, and causal, are non-self and are unreal. The self or I is quite different from them. It is due to ignorance that the sense of the self or the I notion is foisted on that which is not self, and this indeed is bondage. Since from ignorance arises bondage, from knowledge ensues liberation. To know this from the Guru is sarvana. To reject the three bodies consisting of the five seats physical, vital, mental, gnostic, and blissful as not I, and to extract through subtle inquiry of who am I, even as the central blade of grass is delicately drawn out from its whorl, that which is different from all the three bodies and is existent as one and universal in the heart as ahem or I, and denoted by the words tvam in the scriptural dictum tattvam asi. That thou art, this process of subtle inquiry is manana or deep contemplation. The beatitude. The world of name and form is but an adjunct of Sat or Brahma, and being not different from it is rejected as such and is affirmed as nothing else but Brahma. The instruction by the Guru to the disciple of the Mahavakya Tattvam Asi, which declares the identity of the Self and the Supreme, is Upadesha. The disciple is then enjoined to remain in the beatitude of Aham Brahma, I the Absolute. Nevertheless, the old tendencies of the mind sprout up thick and strong and form an obstruction to that state of beatitude. These tendencies are threefold and egoism, which is their root flourishes in the externalized and differentiating consciousness caused by the forces of vikshepa or dissipation due to rajas and avarna or envelopment due to tamas. Churning the mind to install the mind firmly in the heart until these forces are destroyed and to awaken with unswerving, ceaseless vigilance the true and cognate tendency which is characteristics of the Atma and is expressed by the dicta Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahma, and Brahma Evu Aham. Brahma alone I am is termed Nididhyasana or Atam Anusandhana, that is constancy in the self. This is otherwise called Bhakti Yoga and Dhyana. Atma Anusandhana has been likened to churning the curd to draw forth butter, the mind being compared to the churning rod, the heart to the curd, and the practice of constancy in the self to the process of churning. Just as by churning the curd butter is extracted and by friction fire is kindled, even so by unswerving vigilant constancy in the self, ceaseless like the unbroken filamentary flow of oil, is generated and the natural or changeless trance or nirvikalpa samadhi, which readily and spontaneously yields that direct, immediate, unobstructed, and universal perception of Dharma, which is at once knowledge and experience and which transcends time and space. Limitless bliss. This is self-realization and thereby is cut asunder the Hridaya Granthi or the knot of the heart. The false delusions of ignorance, the vicious and age-long tendencies of the mind which constitute this knot are destroyed, all doubts are dispelled, and the bondage of karma is severed. Thus has Sri Sankara described in this crown gem of discrimination, samadhi or transcendent, which is the limitless bliss of liberation, beyond doubt and duality, and has at the same time indicated the means for its attainments. To realize this state of freedom from duality is the summum bonum of life, and he alone that has won it is Jivan Mukta, the liberated one while yet alive, and not he who has merely a theoretical understanding of what constitutes Purushartha or the desired end aim of human endeavor. Final freedom. Thus defining a Jivan Mukta, he is declared to be free from the bonds of threefold karmas, Sanchita, Agami, and Prarabdha. The disciple who has reached this stage then relates his personal experience. The liberated one is free indeed to act as he pleases, and when he leaves the moral frame, attains absolution and returns not to this birth which is death. Sri Sankara thus describes realization that connotes liberation as twofold, that is, Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti referred to above. Moreover, in this short treatise, written in the form of a dialogue between a guru and his disciple, he has considered many relevant topics. 6th February 1937, talk number 350. While speaking to Mr. G. Shanmugam, a very sincere loyal devotee, Bhagwan observed, the Shastras say that one must serve as a guru for 12 years for getting self-realization. What does Guru do? Does he hand it over to the disciple? Is not the self always realized? What does the common belief mean then? The man is always the self and yet he does not know it. He confounds it with the non self, with the body, etc. Such confusion is due to ignorance. If ignorance be wiped out, the confusion will cease to exist and the true knowledge will be unfolded. By remaining in contact with realized sages, the man gradually loses the ignorance until its removal is complete. The eternal self is thus revealed. This is the meaning conveyed by the story of Astavakra and Janka. The anecdotes differ in different books. We are not concerned with the names and the embellishments. The tattva, that is the moral, must not be lost sight of. The disciple surrenders himself to the master. That means there is no vestige of individuality retained by the disciple. If the surrender is complete, all sense of individuality is lost and there is thus no cause for misery. The eternal being is only happiness that is revealed. Without understanding it right, people think that the Guru teaches the disciple something like Tattvam Asi, and that the disciple realizes I am Brahma. In their ignorance, they conceive of Brahma as something more huge and powerful than anything else. With a limited eye, the man is so stuck up and wild. What will be the case if the same eye grows up enormous? He will be enormously ignorant and foolish. This false eye must perish. Its annihilation is the fruit of Guru Seva. Realization is eternal and it is not newly brought about by the Guru. He helps in the removal of ignorance. That's all. 7th February 1937. Talk number 351. Dr. Subramanya Iyer, retired health officer of Salem, read out a passage which contained the instruction that one should know that the world is transitory, that worldly enjoyments are useless, that one should therefore turn away in disgust from them, restrain the senses, and meditate on the self to realize it. Sri Bhagwan observed, how does one know the world to be transitory unless something permanent is held? The transitory nature of the world cannot be understood because the man is already the self and the self is the eternal reality. His attention to is drawn to it and he is instructed to rivet his attention on the eternal reality, the self. Talk number 352. The different creeds. The thought rises up as the subject and object. I alone being held, all else disappears. It is enough, but only to the competent few. The others argue, quite so. The world that exists in my sleep has existed before my birth and will exist after my death. Do not others see it? How can the world cease to be if my ego appears not? The genesis of the world and the different schools of thought are meant to satisfy such people. Devotee, nevertheless, being only products of intellect, they cannot turn the mind inward. Mercy, just for this reason, the scriptures speak of interned look, one pointed look, and so on. The self being always the self, why should only Dhira be illumined? Does it mean a man of grace? No. Dhi, intellect, Ra, was protection. So Dhira is the one who always keeps the mind inward bent without letting it loose. It's February 1937, talk 353. Devotee, what is Turiya? Mercy, there are three states only, the waking, dream, and sleep. Turiya is not a fourth one. It is what underlies these three. but people do not readily understand it. Therefore, it is said that this is the fourth state and the only reality. In fact, it is not apart from anything, for it forms the substratum of all happenings. It is the only truth. It is your very being. The three states appear as fleeting phenomena on it and then sink into it alone. Therefore, they are unreal. The pictures in a cinema show are only shadows passing over the screen. They make their appearance, move forward and backward, change from one to another, are therefore unreal, whereas the screen all along remains unchanged. Similarly, with paintings, the images are unreal and the canvas real. So, along with us, the world phenomena within or without are only passing phenomena, not independent of ourselves. Only the habit of looking on them as being real and located outside ourselves is responsible for hiding our true being and showing forth the others. The ever present only reality, the self being found, all other unreal things will disappear, leaving behind the knowledge that they are no other than the self. Turiya alone, another name for the self. Aware of the waking, dream, and sleep states, we remain unaware of our own self. Nevertheless, the self is here and now. It is the only reality. There is nothing else. So long as identification with the body lasts, the world seems to lie outside us. Only realize the self and they are not. Talk 344. An American lady, a theosophist, asked, "What is the mean by which my approach to my master may be made nearer?" Devotee, Maharshi, how far away are you now from him? Devotee, I am away from him, but I want to get closer to him. Maharshi, if you first know yourself, you may then find out how far away the other is. How are you now? Who are you now? Are you the personality? Dude, yes, I am the personality. Mercy, is the personality independent of the self? Devotee, sometimes. Mercy, at what times? Devotee, I mean, I have some flashes of the reality and other times I do not have them. Mercy, who is aware of those flashes? Devotee, I mean my personality. Mercy, is this personality aware as being apart from the self? Devotee, which self? Mercy, which do you consider the personality to be? Devotee, the lower self. Mercy, then I mean to ask if the lower self is aware independently of the higher self? Devotee, yes, at times. Mercy, who feels that she is away from the master just now? Devotee, the higher self. Mercy, does the higher self have a body and say that the master is away from it? Does it speak through your mouth? Are you apart from that? Devotee, can you kindly advise me how I can train myself to be aware of what I do even without the body, as in sleep? Mercy, awareness is your nature. In deep sleep or in waking, it is the same. How can it be gained afresh? Devotee, but I do not remember what and how I did in my sleep. Mercy, who says I do not remember? Devotee, I say now. Mercy, you were the same then. Why do you not say so in sleep? Devotee, I do not remember what I say in sleep. Mercy, you say I know, I remember in the wakeful state. This is same personality says I did not know. I did not remember in sleep. Why does not this question arise in sleep? Devotee, I do not know what happens in sleep. That is the reason I ask now. Maharshi, the question affects the sleeping phase and must be raised there. It does not affect the waking phase, and there is no apparent reason for this question. The fact is that you have no limitations in sleep and no question arises. Whereas now you put on limitations, identify yourself with the body, and questions of this kind arise. Devotee, I understand it, but do not realize it. That is unity in variety. Mercy, because you are in variety, you say you understand unity, that you have flashes, etc., remember things, etc. You consider this variety to be real. On the other hand, unity is the reality and the variety is false. The variety must go before unity reveals itself. It's a reality. It is always real. It does not send flashes of its being in this false variety. On the contrary, this variety obstructs the truth. Then some others pursue the conversation. Mercy, removal of ignorance is the aim of practice and not acquisition of realization. Realization is ever present, here and now. Were it to be acquired is new. Realization must be understood to be absent at one time and present at another time. In that case, it is not permanent and therefore not worth the attempt. But realization is permanent and eternal and is here and now. Devotee, grace is necessary for the removal of ignorance. Maharshi, certainly, but grace is all along there. Grace is the self. It is not something to be acquired. All that is necessary is to know its existence. For example, the sun is brightness only. He does not see darkness. Whereas others speak of darkness fleeing away on the sun approaching. Similarly, ignorance also is a phantom and not real. Because of its unreality, its unreal nature being found, it is said to be removal. Again, the sun is there and also bright. You are surrounded by sunlight. Still, if you would know the sun, you must turn your eyes in his direction and look at him. So also grace is found by practice alone, although it is here and now. Devotee, by the desire to surrender constantly, increasing grace is experienced, I hope. Mercy, surrender alone for all and be done with the desire. So long as the sense of doership is retained, there is the desire. That is also personality. If this goes, the self is found to shine forth pure. The sense of doership is the bondage and not the actions themselves. Be still and know that I am God. Here, stillness is total surrender without a vestige of individuality. Stillness will prevail and there will be no agitation of mind. Agitation of mind is the cause of desire. The sense of doership and personality, if that is stopped, there is quiet. Their knowing means being. It is not the relative knowledge involving the triads, knowledge, subject, and object. Devotee, is the thought I am God or I am the Supreme Being helpful? Mercy, I am that I am. I am is God, not thinking. I am God. Realize I am and do not think I am. Know I am God. It is said and not think I am God. Later Sri Bhagwan continued, it is said, I am that I am. That means a person must abide as the I. He is always the I alone. He is nothing else. Yet he asks, who am I? A victim of illusion would ask, who am I? And not a man fully aware of himself. The wrong identity of the self with the non-self makes you ask, who am I? Later still, there are different routes to Tiruvannamalai, but Tiruvannamalai is the same by whichever route it is gained. Similarly, the approach to the subject varies according to the personality. Yet the self is the same, but still, being in Trivanamali, if one asks for the root, it is ridiculous. So also, being the self, if one asks how to realize the self, it looks absurd. You are the self, remain as the self, that's all. The question arises because of the present wrong identification of the self with the body. That is ignorance. This must go. On its removal, the self alone is. Talk 355. Devotee. Does not education make a sage more useful to the world than illiteracy? Mercy. Even a learned man must bow before the illiterate sage. Illiteracy is ignorance. Education is learned ignorance. Both of them are ignorant of their true aim. Whereas the sage is not ignorant because there is no aim for him. Talk number 356. Devotee, why should there be sleep in the world? Mercy, owing to sin only. Devotee, can it be destroyed? Mercy, yes. Devotee, it ends only after making itself felt, they say. Mercy, why then devotion to God? Devotee, how can sleep be destroyed? Mercy, be not aware of its activities and effects. Devotee, how can it be done? Mercy, only by enquiry of the self. Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. Talk 357. Reminiscences. Sri Bhagwan was recounting some of the incidents of his stay in Trivandrum. First incident. He was one day given a small speck of some substance on a leaf to be licked off. It was said to be a good help for digestion. He licked it. Later he had his meal. After some time the assembled persons appeared to be surrounded by light. Tejomaya. The experience passed away after some time. Devotee. Sorry. Reminiscences number 2. While he was living in Pavalakundru, he intended to have a bath in one of the rills on the hillside. Palani Swami was informed of it. The news spread that Jada Padamnabha Swami, who was living on the hill, had arranged with Palani Swami to take Sri Bhagwan to the hill near his cottage. Palani Swami, without informing Sri Bhagwan, managed to take him there. A great reception awaited him. A seat was arranged for him, milk and fruits were offered, and J.P. waited on him with great kindness. 3. J.P. Though represented in the book Self-Realization as having sought to injure Sri Bhagwan, was really kind to him, and his pranks were misunderstood to be acts of malice. His only weakness was that he wanted to make capital out of Sri Bhagwan for raising funds, which of course the Maharshi did not like. There was nothing wrong with JP. Fourth, Madhava Swami, the attendant, asked if Sri Bhagwan remained without food for months in the underground cellar in the temple. Mercy, food was forthcoming, milk, fruits, but whoever thought of food? Fifth, while staying in the mango tree cave, for Sri Bhagwan used to string garlands for the images in the temple with lotuses, yellow flowers, sarakonai, and green leaves. Sixth, after the completion of the Kalyamantapam, Sri Bhagwan had stayed there one night in disguise. Seventh, when he was sitting under a tree in the temple compound, he was covered with dirt, for he never used to bathe in the cold nights of This summer he used to hold up the legs, place his head between his legs and remain there without moving. Early in the morning, the layer of dirt on his body was soaked with dew and mist and appeared white. After drying up in the sun, it appeared dark. 8. When living on the hill, Sri Bhagwan used to help in the puja of JP, ringing the bell, washing the vessels, etc., all along remaining silent. He also used to read medical works, for example, Ashtanga has them in Malayalam and point out the treatment contained in this book for the patients who sought the other sadhu's help. The sadhu did not himself know how to read these works. So I end this video number 20 here, and the next video number 21 will start mm, with 12th February 1937 and talk number 358. So thank you my dear friends for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Thanks. Namaskar.